Hey guys, I've got another scrapbook layout today as part of my Pink Paislee design team, and I am going to be using this really cute photo of my nephew Jack. He's all dressed up in his foxy little outfit. So I started going through the 12 by 12 paper pad from Truly Grateful, and as soon as I saw that tree paper I knew it would be perfect for creating a little forest for this wee wild thing to sit in. I decided that as well as having the fussy cut trees that I'm going to do, I wanted to create some sort of background for him and the photo to sit onto. So I grabbed out this sort of polka dotty confetti paper and I've just trimmed down a little strip. It's just slightly wide enough for the photo. And what I'm going to do is create a shaker out of it. So I also grabbed some old plastic packaging that I had sitting around. I use these a lot. I keep all of my plastic packaging just for this sort of purpose. And I'm going to take that over to my sewing machine and I'm going to stitch around 3 sides of that just using a basic white thread. Then I can trim off that excess plastic, and I've got a little opening at the top there that I haven't stitched through yet. And what I'm going to do is tip a sequin mix in there. I sort of made the sequin mix off camera just to coordinate with some of the colors in the photo and the trees that I'm going to use. So once I've poured that all in, I can just use my sewing machine again to stitch across the top, and here I have my little shaker piece which I can now stick down to my layout. I'm going to use some double-sided tape with this. It is a little bit thick. I do want it to stick really well to the layout. If you wanted to get a little bit more fiddly, you could probably stitch the entire piece onto your background instead of having to glue it like I am here. But I just find when I'm using my sewing machine with plastic packaging like that, it is a little bit easier the smaller the size that you use. So this is just as easy to stick down with a little bit of tape, and it's not too bulky once it's finished. And now I can get on with fussy cutting out all of my little trees. Now I'm going to be a bit selective about which trees I do fussy cut from this paper. I want to try and stick to a green and orange kind of color scheme, so I'm not going to cut out all of those pretty pinks and purples. I might do a couple of little blue ones and maybe a yellow one just to throw a little bit of variety in there, but I am going to stick mostly to the greens and oranges. These are a super simple pattern to fussy cut out. It's just a really rough kind of circular shape with the wee trunk at the bottom, so it actually doesn't take that long, and I'm definitely not going to make you watch all of it though. Once I've got my pile of trees all cut out, I'm going to start by just adding a little bit of foam to the back of my photo just to give it a tiny bit of dimension. I don't want these trees, the sort of forest in the photo, all to sit really flat onto this page. I do want to add a little bit of dimension to them. So once I've kind of placed my trees and worked out a nice balance of colors from both the right hand side where the majority of the trees will be and onto the left. I do want a few onto the left up there. I just want to balance out the colors and the darkness between some of those dark greens and the lighter greens and adding those pops of orange. You can see I did cut out a couple of those kind of corally colored trees. They sort of go with the orange, and I'm just trying to balance everything visually. Once I've got that all sort of sorted out, I can go ahead and start sticking some down, and some I will stick flat onto the cardboard, but like I said, some I do want to give a little bit of dimension to, so I will use some craft foam on those as well. Now I know where the trees are going to go, especially the ones that are going to sit behind my photo. I can stick that down and then go ahead and adhere my photo, and that way everything isn't just rustling around as I'm trying to stick down all of these trees. Now, as I'm sticking them down, I want to create dimension and that effect of near and far. So I'm not sticking them down like from left to right. I'm kind of making it a little bit more random. So where I place them and how I'm sticking them down, I'm trying to make it a little bit more random. So the different heights of the different trees varies across the page. It does take me a little bit of time. Some of them I'm sticking directly onto the cardstock. Some of them I'm adding a little bit of foam to. Just about all of them, the trunks are just going to be as they are, so they'll probably flatten out in the page protectors, but I'm okay with that. I did stick a couple of those trees onto the front of the photo, again to create that sort of layering. And as I'm getting to this point in the layout, I'm unhappy with the line that's been created of the trees, and I want to randomize that a little bit more. So the next few trees that I'm going to put down, I'm going to move them away from the forest, so to speak, so they're sort of sitting on their own. It's just going to help just create a bit more flow around the page, to balance everything out essentially. So I'm being careful about which colors of trees that I'm placing, just so I don't disrupt that balance of color that I have across the page. And I am making sure that I'm leaving some room at the bottom of my page, because that is where my title is going to go. So for my title, I am going to use those foam alphas from Truly Grateful, but I do want to keep that color scheme. So I'm only going to use greens, yellows, oranges, that sort of thing, which does make it a tiny bit tricky. I'm not actually placing my title at the moment. I'm just pulling the letters off to see if I have enough. And this is where I hit a problem, because I don't have an I left that is in that color scheme. So I was a little bit stuck. I was looking maybe at what other letters I could cut down to create an I, and then I realized there's an exclamation mark I can use. If I flip the exclamation mark upside down, it looks like a lowercase I, and that's probably as good as I'm going to get. So I'm really happy that there was a solution in the end. I'm just using a ruler to make sure that that title is straight. It didn't look particularly straight to my eye, and it wasn't, so I grabbed the ruler out just to make sure I was getting everything nice and straight at the bottom of the page. It would be pretty obvious if it wasn't, and because everything else is on quite a sort of grid for this layout, the title needed to be straight as well. So I've got my title on, and I'm just going to add a tiny little touch of embellishment here with some puffy stickers, adding just a few little kind of woodland animals to my forest theme here. It helps to tie the whole theme together. Just adding some in the trees, one by the title and one onto the left hand side of the page as well, just to create that sort of visual triangle. And the last little embellishment, I'm going to add some of these circle puffy stickers, just in those same colors, just sprinkled around the page, just filling in little gaps and adding a little bit more color to the page. It almost sort of looks like the sequins have escaped the pocket. Now the last thing I add, and you won't see this on camera, you can see in the detailed shots, is I'm going to add a tiny little bit of journaling down the bottom underneath my title with a gold pen, and call this layout done. I love how the sparkly little forest came to life. It just makes that little face stand out even more. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you want to keep watching, there are a couple more videos on screen. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Bye guys.